Welcome to today's explainer. Now, right up front, I want to set the tone, because the story we are diving into today requires our absolute deepest empathy and respect. It's a profoundly heavy narrative about the origins of a family, how a staggering truth can stay buried for decades, and the immeasurable weight of maternal love. The material we're looking at is intensely complex, but it's absolutely crucial for understanding how a person's entire perception of their identity can be completely transformed in a single instant. So, with the utmost respect, let's start unraveling this story, the evolution of a hidden truth.
I want you to ask yourself a question. What would you do if, at exactly 25 years old, you discovered that your entire family history was a lie? And not a malicious lie, but one built entirely to protect you. Because that is the exact situation the narrator of our story found herself in. As we go through this, we're going to peel back the layers of her narrative. Honestly, it's a lot like peeling an onion. We start with what looks like a perfectly normal, happy life, this flawless outer layer, which is then suddenly and violently shattered to reveal something unimaginable at its core.
Section 1. A reality built with love. To really grasp the sheer impact of the revelation to come, we first have to understand the foundation of our narrator's life. For her first 25 years, her reality was defined by profound peace, absolute stability, and just immense affection. She was raised by a woman she called, and frankly, still calls, Mom. This woman wasn't just a maternal figure to her, she was an absolute shield against the outside world, creating a home so full of love that there was simply no room for emotional voids or lingering doubts.
But there's a really stark duality to her existence here. Look at the assumed reality on one side. The narrator grew up being told a very simple, albeit tragic, story. Her biological mother, who was the twin sister of the aunt who raised her, had passed away from severe anemia and postpartum depression. Her aunt then stepped in an act of pure devotion, to adopt and raise her. But then, on the other side, is the unknown reality. There was a dark, terrifying secret being carefully hidden from her. And it's important to understand this wasn't kept from her out of malice, but strictly to ensure her physical and emotional survival.
Her own words really captured the essence of her youth. She said, "I didn't feel the need to know more. My aunt gave me so much love and family." It's honestly incredible how the absolute dedication of this aunt shielded her. She provided a husband who became a father figure, cousins who felt exactly like siblings, and a life that was so complete, the narrator literally never even questioned the absence of a biological father or extended family. In this case, love functioned as the perfect defense mechanism, essentially erasing any curiosity that could have led her down a path toward a deeply painful past.
Moving into Section 2, the past knocks on the door. Now, the rhythm of our story changes drastically right here. It starts as just an ordinary day. The narrator, now a young woman close to finishing her university studies, comes home. Her aunt is resting upstairs. And then, completely out of nowhere, the past quite literally knocks on their front door.
The chaotic sequence of events that follows happens so incredibly fast. Literally, at minute 0, she opens the door and finds two elderly strangers. By minute 2, completely innocent and unsuspecting, she welcomes them inside. The elderly man greets her warmly, saying he's your aunt's father, but by minute 5, everything explodes. The narrator calls for her aunt, she comes downstairs, and there is no joyous family reunion. There is only absolute terror. By minute 10, the aunt completely transforms, throwing her own body in front of the young woman as a physical shield against these two strangers. And the narrator? She's just left there, completely paralyzed by confusion.
The words her aunt screams in that moment are chilling. "You will never, ever hurt us again. Get out." I mean, imagine being the narrator right then. You are looking at two fragile elderly people, but the woman who raised you is acting with a desperate, fierce maternal instinct that defies all logic of the peaceful life you've ever known. The aunt is screaming at the intruders that to her they have been dead since the day she buried her sister, and she demands they leave their peaceful life alone immediately. Which brings us to Section 3, the hidden truth. This is where we have to peel back the horrific layers of what was really going on. Because it's right here that the aunt, backed into a corner in her own living room, while this elderly couple begs for forgiveness, realizes she can't keep the illusion going anymore. With immense, visible pain, she's forced to drop the veil, and the information she reveals in this moment is devastating. It completely and permanently redefines the identity of our protagonist. This next part is, without a doubt, the heaviest realization in our entire story. Take a close look at this dual definition of abuelo, or grandfather. The aunt looks her adopted daughter dead in the eyes and reveals that the elderly man standing right in front of them is not just her maternal grandfather, he is also her biological father. In that exact fraction of a second, the narrator's entire origin is completely fractured. The woman she always believed had died of anemia had actually taken her own life to escape the man standing in their living room.
We have to go back decades to understand the environment on their rural farm. It was a place of systematic, horrific abuse. The grandfather abused both of the twin sisters. But what adds a layer of profound darkness to this is the grandmother's terrifying complicity. She was silenced by fear and economic dependency, and she demanded that her daughters remain completely silent for their financial survival, telling them they just had to endure it. Trapped in this inescapable nightmare, the narrator's biological mother fell into a severe, completely devastating depression when she found out she was pregnant. Section 4. The Sacrifice of Two Sisters. Yet, even in the midst of all this absolute darkness, an astonishing light emerges. You see, this isn't just a story about trauma. At its core, it's a story about the unyielding heroism of two sisters. Their unbreakable bond literally became the ultimate shield against profound evil.
Let's walk through the tragic but incredibly heroic sequence of what happened. Initially, the biological mother endured the abuse specifically to spare her twin sister from it. When she became pregnant and delivered prematurely, she was incredibly weak. She begged her sister to protect the baby with her life. The catalyst for the final tragedy happened when the grandfather exploited the fact that the sisters were identical twins. He used the mother's ID to force the aunt to take the baby to get vaccinated, basically attempting to claim the child as his own. Terrified that he would subject her baby to the exact same horrors she had endured, the biological mother made the ultimate sacrifice. She took her own life to force the extended family to intervene, ensuring her baby's escape.
I promised my sister that I was going to protect her from you two, even if it cost me my life. That powerful promise right there was the engine behind everything. During the absolute chaos of the funeral, the aunt pleaded for help from an uncle who was visiting from the capital. Armed with literally nothing more than bus fare and a single baby bottle, she fled to the city with the infant. She left her entire life behind just to fulfill her twin sister's dying wish. Section 5. Redefining Identity. Now think about having to process all of that information in a single afternoon. The narrator had to psychologically redefine her entire existence. She was no longer just an orphan from a sad medical story, she was the direct result of severe generational trauma. But even more importantly, she realized she was the beneficiary of the purest, most selfless sacrifice that can possibly exist. It's a profound psychological journey. On one side, you have the immediate trauma response. The narrator initially felt like a disgusting monster, burdened with this horrific guilt, thinking that her mere existence had caused her mother's death. But her aunt, showing that same unwavering devotion as she always had, guided her toward the ultimate realization. She helped her understand that she wasn't a monster at all. She was the living embodiment of her mother's and aunt's absolute, self-sacrificing love.
So how do you even begin to move forward after your past is rewritten like that? Well, the narrator chose resilience. She dedicated herself to finishing her studies and building a family of her own. She completely and permanently expelled those grandparents from her life. And to respect her mother's memory, she deliberately chose not to dig for more painful details of the past. Instead, she cherishes the only existing photograph of her biological mother, keeping it right in her living room. And she deeply, deeply honors the aunt who raised her, always recognizing the incredibly heavy price that was paid for her freedom.
Which brings us to our final reflection. Can a life born from unimaginable darkness become the ultimate testament to love and sacrifice? I think the story of this woman overwhelmingly proves that yes, it absolutely can. It teaches us that our identity isn't solely defined by our biological origins or even by the traumas of our past, but rather by the unconditional love we choose to give and receive. It is such a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and what the word family truly deeply means. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Explainer.